Cool. So moving on swiftly. So remember the email that I mentioned to you guys that I thought was spam? Yeah? Okay, cool. So this next topic is about cyber, all right? And how often do you think there's a cyber attack? If you were to give the seconds, I was shocked. How many seconds or minutes? A cyber attack every 1 second. Thank God we're not at that place at the moment. So it's 39 seconds. Every 39 seconds, supposedly, there's a cyber attack. So that means there's someone that is sending a phishing email that is trying to get some information, some data. They're trying to get some money in a lot of cases. In COVID, this kind of expanded a lot because we all moved to virtual remote working. So it just skyrocketed. And that industry is growing a considerable amount. I think over 25% each year compared to kind of what it's been doing since 2012. So now I think that cybercrime costs over 9 billion. Sorry, I'm wrong. 9 trillion in the US. 9 trillion. I don't even have those numbers. I don't know where those numbers come from. There's too many zeros for me. But that is a massive amount. So this next speaker is going to be over video because he can't join us today. But this is Joe De Silva. So he actually works at RS, and he's the Chief Information Security Officer at the RS Group. And he helps the organization, but also the customers, to essentially address these risks that might appear day to day. He's got many different qualifications in order to do that. But he actually studied biochemistry beforehand. So the point I'm trying to make is a lot of speakers today have gone from studying one thing, whether it be materials, to then going on to work on products or tech. There's a lot of room for growth and, I guess, transferable skills in a lot of these roles. So he did that at Royal Holloway as well, where he's doing a PhD, a lot of PhDs today. And he did that part-time, and I think he just wrapped it up. So he's also passionate about making cybersecurity a lot more accessible for all of us. So we're going to share a video.
Silva, and I am the Chief Information Security Officer at RS Group, which basically means I run the cybersecurity department. I'm really sorry that I can't be there in person, but a medical issue has prevented me from getting into London, I'm afraid. I want to talk a little bit about what I do, what we do in cybersecurity, but also a bit about my background and barriers that I've experienced and lessons that I've learnt. So a bit about my background. My dad was from Guyana and he came over here in the 60s. My mum was Irish and her parents came over here in the 40s, late 40s. We grew up in a place called Lincoln, which is sort of North Midlands-y way. And neither of my parents went to university, but I had the opportunity to do that. We didn't have any tuition fees back then, and there was a full grant. Imagine that. Government used to actually give you money to support you learning things. Hard to believe now. But without that, me and my brother wouldn't have been able to go to university. But my parents were very much of the view that if you had the opportunity to do it, you should take it. And ultimately, it was going to make us more employable. So take the opportunity, see where you get to. So that worked out quite well. I went to Manchester. I did biochemistry at university, but didn't really then know what to do with it after that. I worked part-time through university as well. I worked part-time when I was at school. So I started at 15 working in a shop, £2 an hour. So I've always enjoyed working. I've always wanted to bring in money so that I could do what I wanted to do and be able to do the things that my parents couldn't afford to do for us. And that was something that then carried on post-university. So literally, I think the day after I finished my last exam, I started temping. I ended up working in call centres, did that for a while, and then got to a point where I thought I'd better do something with this degree and see if I can get on a graduate scheme. Applied to a bank because I was working at a call centre in a financial services company, and banks are where the money is, so I thought, right, I'll do that. And then I didn't get into the bank that I applied for. I went to an internet cafe to fill in the forms, In those days, internet cafes were quite common because not everybody could afford to have a computer. And I paid for an hour, did the banking application in about 45 minutes, had 50 minutes left, wanted to get my money's worth, so I looked to see who else was recruiting. And I came across an advert for IBM, and I thought, do you know what, give it a go. So I bashed out the application in about 15 minutes with no prep work. So long story short, I got the IBM job, didn't get the banking job. So I then ended up working in technology roles for most of my career, and then moved into security. I'd always had an interest in security, but mainly from how I could get into locks and open cars and things like that, but never realised there was actually a career in it. But working in technology made me realise that there was. So then I ended up running cybersecurity functions at large companies, British Gas prior to here, now RS, and really found a huge passion for security was being fulfilled by working in it, and it was just feeding into that quest that I'd always had to learn more and to be able to get whatever knowledge I could out of the situation I was in, which is for me always been about employability. I've always wanted to learn more, but it's also really critical for me that if I ever lose my job, that I'm in a good place to get another job. And having watched my dad go through redundancy, that was always very front of mind. How can I make sure that I'm able to get another job if I lose the one that I've got? So learning has been quite key for me. It's not the be all and end all by any means, but I've always seen it as something that helps me to be more employable. So with that in mind, I started a PhD about 5 years ago. So did that part-time whilst working, and I did that for the employability aspect of it, but also wanting to learn more, especially about the non-technical side of security, which much more than the technology actually influences everything we do. The sort of political aspects, the social aspects of security, it's something that we just can't escape. Security affects each of us every single day, whether that's how you're using your phone, whether that's walking down the street and being surveilled by CCTV. Security is something that we just cannot get away from, and it affects how we live our lives. So it's not just tech, I guess, is the message there. And that leads me on to talk about what cybersecurity is. Big part of it is technology. There's no getting away from that. Hacking of systems. But what we do in the cybersecurity industry is legal hacking. So we will hack our own systems. We will try and find holes before criminals do. And there are criminals. There are lots of criminals. So cybercrime, whether it's phishing, whether it's somebody sending you an email saying, can you transfer this money into this account, whether it's somebody trying to attack a website for a corporate organization, it's a business. It's a $3 trillion annual business. That's the cybercrime industry. And it is phenomenally sophisticated. This is organized crime. Don't make any mistake. This is organized crime. It is generally not one person in their bedroom going, I wonder if I can hack the BBC website or whatever. It is business that is run very professionally. So we, as a team within the organization, need to bear that in mind, look at what we can do to defend against those sorts of attacks. And part of what we do internally is demonstrate some of these mechanisms, some of the methods that hackers use. That includes little hacking tools. There's something called the OMG cable, which you can look up, which looks like an iPhone charging cable, and to all intents and purposes it is. But if you plug that into your computer, with my phone, I can then remotely command that cable to run software on your computer and to install software, and I can do it in the background without you noticing. The cable itself is got a small chip in the top end of it. You can't see it, so it's no bigger than a normal iPhone cable, and the wire acts as a Wi-Fi antenna. It's incredibly sophisticated, but this sort of technology exists. We also demo things like Wi-Fi spoofing, so that I can set up a fake McDonald's Wi-Fi, fake Starbucks Wi-Fi, whatever you like, and your phone will automatically connect to it if it's previously connected to Starbucks Wi-Fi. We also look at the non-technological aspects like human behaviour. There's a huge amount of psychology involved in security. As I mentioned, also politics and sociology, definitely not just IT. So how do you get into it? If you've never had a look at it before, if you're just starting out from scratch, do some research. There's loads of stuff on YouTube, there's loads of stuff on blogs, there's lots and lots of books out there, and if anyone is interested, I'll happily send anyone a list of things to get started with. Networking is really important. Everybody's going to tell you to network, but really in security it's absolutely crucial. But it's slightly different because most people in security are really happy to share their experiences and to share advice with you. They're not just necessarily looking to network for the sake of it. Generally, most security people want to help other people come through, partly because there are lots and lots of open jobs where often the whole industry is looking to hire good people, and there needs to be a conveyor belt of people. We need to bring people through, and it's not just through universities, it's not just through people transferring from different careers, but there's also things like apprenticeships. You don't have to have a degree to be able to get into security. We've got I think 2 of our apprentices maybe here today, so there's definitely schemes like that out there that a lot of organisations are offering. Key thing is, for me in security, you've got to be passionate about it. You might not be passionate about it today, but if you look into it, it's such a broad subject. You might find something that does sort of tickle your fancy, that you think, actually, yeah, do you know what, this is something I want to do more of. So have a go, have a look at it. If you're interested in the technology side of things, try some things out, but know the law first. Do not attack other people's systems. Even if you're just being curious, it is really easy to end up in prison. So know the law, Computer Misuse Act in particular, but there are safe systems out there. There are labs that people offer so that you can try some technology out, but do stay within the law. They're very, very hot on this. So in terms of, just to wrap up, things that I've always been faced in my career, and guess things that I've learnt. First thing is, I've often been told in organisations that I'm not ready. Or, you're not ready for this promotion, or you're not ready for that role, or this, that. For me, that's my cue to leave. Not immediately though. I've never thrown my toys out the pram and gone, right, well that's it, I'm off. But I have always gone in my head, right, this is not the place for me. If you're not ready, you say I'm not ready, I think you're not ready for me. So that is me thinking about, what can I then do over a set time limit. So I tend to set myself a limit of, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years, but I say, right, I am going to squeeze what I can out of this opportunity. I'm going to learn what I can. I'm going to put myself forward for projects, or I'm going to go and deliberately spend more time with people that I don't know enough about their area and what they do, so that I can then use that opportunity as a way of learning. So I've always wanted to challenge myself. Now, am I learning something? I might not be getting promoted, but am I actually learning something I can use to get a better job elsewhere? And then when that time limit hits, that's it, I'm off and I'm looking for another job. It's always been for me quite as obviously negatives to it, but quite an enabler, having had no safety net, particularly when I was younger, because I've always been thinking about, well, what if I lose my job? And that has helped me to push myself forward. But as I said earlier, not always about qualifications, experience, network, being able to talk to people, being able to develop skills that I didn't always have. Public speaking. I used to be terrible at public speaking. I used to be really bad at networking, at making small talk with people. I'm still not great at making small talk with people, but having done it, having tried things out, I've got a lot better. And every time you're trying things like this out, you will get better. It's incremental, but you've got to sort of keep at it and put yourself in those situations. And my overall approach has always been that I'm running my own business. So this is Joe De Silva Limited. I've got clients. Now, I'm permanently employed. I've always, well, apart from one contract, I've always been permanently employed. But I'm viewing my employer as my client. I'm a consultant. I'm helping them, but they're also helping me, and I'm looking at what can I learn from this situation. What can I take away? We all know there's no jobs for life. So rather than you being subject to somebody else's whims, take control. And even if that's when you're working in a shop, I worked in a shop, but I took time to learn about stock control, pricing, promotions, things like that, just so that I wasn't just there working the till. I was learning a little bit more about what that business did, how it operated, and then I can take that away into my future career. So in summary, you're running your own business. How are you going to get that next client? How are you going to make sure you can get that next client and you can deliver for them what they need? Squeeze every opportunity dry. Try different things out. Always be hustling. What can I get involved with? What can I be learning? And security, final point on that, it is really interesting. Have a look into it. It affects all of us because it's not just tech. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.